Caring Review Print Speaking to the Blind, celebrating 40 years of audio newspaper production. Welcome to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times podcast, recorded at the Bishop Briggs Media Centre by our amazing volunteers. You can get in touch with us via Facebook, Twitter or Instagram using @QNReview. That is @ CUEANDREVIEW. You can also contact us directly by emailing information@QNreview.com. That is INFORMATION @CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling 0141 772 3976. That's 0141 772 3976.
Evening Times, October 10. Opinion. Soraya Siddiq says, "Let's share the future together." As we come together this October to celebrate Black History Month, it is time to honour the achievements and contributions of our BAME communities across Scotland, and reflect on the progress we have made in equality and representation, while acknowledging that there is much more to be done. If you are going to build a truly inclusive society in which different communities can live and work together, with shared hopes and aspirations and common principles and values contributing to a better life for all, it is important to understand each other better. Black History Month provides an important opportunity to highlight the overlooked stories of BAME leaders, academics, and everyday citizens who have shaped our society for the better. Their contributions have enriched our cultural, political, and social fabric. These are the stories that deserve to be told, not just in October, but every day of the year. BAME communities still face significant challenges in their everyday lives. Structural inequalities persist in education, employment, and healthcare. BAME individuals are disproportionately affected by poverty and discrimination, which limit their opportunities and social mobility. A recent briefing from Shelter Scotland and Engender has revealed that the housing crisis we are facing in the city disproportionately impacts women, especially BAME, disabled, and refugee women. The report highlights the struggle faced by many to access safe, affordable housing. It shows that higher rates of poverty among women and their greater reliance on social security benefits restricts their access to housing. And it highlights that homelessness services in Scotland are often poorly equipped to respond to women's needs, particularly those fleeing domestic abuse. Caring responsibilities and safety issues also create additional requirements for specific temporary homeless accommodation that local services often cannot meet. All of these issues, the report rightly argues, show a deep gender bias in our housing and homelessness system. This bias has an even greater impact on women and children of colour. Whilst we rightly celebrate the history and contributions of our BAME communities throughout the month of October, we must also use this opportunity to reaffirm our commitment to dismantling barriers they still face. We need urgent action from all levels of government to address the housing crisis, improve economic opportunities, and strengthen social services for all communities, while recognising the disproportional disadvantage minority communities face. It is not enough to celebrate diversity. We must ensure that our policies reflect our values of equality, fairness, and justice for all. Our shared future depends on breaking down structural barriers that have held so many back for so long. An important but light-hearted moment last weekend when we watched Dr. Poonam Krishnan bring Bollywood to Strictly Dancing during Black History Month. It reminded many of us from an Asian background the importance of music and dance in breaking barriers and representation. A reminder why arts and cultural events, including those celebrating the diversity of our city within schools, community centres and outdoor spaces, must be protected from year-on-year budget pressures. Black History Month matters. Even more important is the next chapter of history for all of us to shape together. Together we can build a Scotland that offers opportunity and security for all, says Soraya Siddiq.
From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 11th of October, from the news section. Anger over plans to demolish gym for flats. Report by Esder Tarnai. Dozens of Glasgow residents gathered to stand up against a plan to demolish a well-used gym to create housing. More than 30 gym goers linked arms outside Nuffield Health Centre in Finnieston, which could be pulled to the ground to make way for 391 flats. Locals are outraged and emotional about the proposal, which they said would rid the community of a one-of-a-kind asset. Vicky Simpson, a member for 20 years, explained, "We have 2,700 plus members. But it also works as a central hub. A lot of other people come from outside the city to use it when they're working. It is also the only local pool in the area, and around 100 babies come through this gym every week to learn how to swim, which is super important. You don't even need to be a member to come here. These are all important aspects of the space that would be lost. There's no replacement for that." Besides an opportunity to work out, the gym also offers classes and houses a creche, a cafe, saunas and more. It functions as a social hub, bringing people together and providing a space to combat loneliness and improve mental health. She added, "There's a huge number of people from different cultures and walks of life who come here and meet who would never have crossed paths in any other way in Glasgow. To take that away, I am getting upset just thinking about it." Cathy Ford, from the local Residents Association, said, "From a net zero point of view, you can't be demolishing functioning, well-used buildings to change their use for no reason. That's completely against all the policies to try and overcome the environmental challenges we are facing." The original bid for the redevelopment was submitted in 2021 and got the green light, but work never started. David Johnson, member of the Residents Association, added, "This was during the first period of COVID. The gym was empty, everyone was locked in their houses, nobody was aware of what was going on. For whatever reason, the council decided to approve that application, and that was completely out of keeping with their own city development plan. We are totally opposed to it." Following a redesign, the improved documents were handed in September this year. This is still being considered by city officials, but the local uproar was immediate. To date, there are 93 objections to the planning application. Keith Trotter, a member of the gym for more than 10 years, said, "There are hundreds of comments and messages which reinforce our point that it went under the radar the first time. We spent a lot of time talking to people who come to the gym, and the human element is amazing. We have people aging from toddlers to 70 plus years old, and from all walks of life. I've never seen anything like it. And for them to say the other gyms in the area, well, they are simply not, because they can't accommodate us, and there are not community gyms by any means. A lot of our people wouldn't go there." The group vowed to keep fighting to stop the development, which is spearheaded by Redifco. The real estate company is asking for approval to build 2 blocks of 1, 2 and 3 bed homes. A decision is expected by Wednesday, November the 29th, and the last day for comments is Monday, October 21st. And that article was written by Esther Tarnay and read by me, Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 11th of October. From the news section, award-winning Amy is a cut above the rest. Report by Morgan Carmichael. A woman says she is still in disbelief after being crowned Scotland's best female barber. Amy Wilson, 29, picked up the prestigious title at the Scottish Hair and Beauty Awards last month, and it is safe to say she is still in shock. I still feel in complete shock after the awards. I'm in disbelief each time I look at my name in the plaque, Amy told the Glasgow Times. She continued, I didn't expect to win at all. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this, and I was in the finals with 9 other incredibly talented women. Some of them have experience in this field, so I just expected them to win. It's not sunk yet at all. Amy, who has worked at Village Barbers in East Kilbride for the last 7.5 years, first began cutting hair at the age of 16. I love doing hair because it allows me to express my creativity while making my clients feel good about themselves, Amy said. She added, there's nothing more rewarding than seeing someone leave the chair with a smile, feeling confident and happy. After fully qualifying at 19 and taking a break to study graphic design instead, Amy re-entered the hair industry in 2017 and has been shining ever since. But despite her undeniable talent, she says her client should also be acknowledged for her big win. She explained, my whole clientele has been so supportive, from convincing me to go ahead with the process, the voting, the finals, and then after they heard the news, it's been a topic of discussion since the beginning of September. The support I've received has been outstanding, and I'm forever grateful for each and every one of them. And though her win was just a month ago, Amy is already seeing some positive evolutions in her career. She explained, I've had more followers on my Instagram, loads of lovely messages from people in the industry, and I've even had a few people asking if I'd assist on photo shoots. I even had a job offer. I'm so grateful. She added, I've met a few people in the industry since the awards who have motivated me to keep pushing myself into new things. I'd love to do more hair shows, more photo shoots, and I'd love to keep putting myself out of my comfort zone and create new looks I never tried before. The Scottish Hair and Beauty Awards is an annual event. The ceremony is often referred to as Scotland's largest and most successful industry-endorsed awards. It is designed to showcase creative talent and reward those who excel in their field. In total, 31 titles are up for grabs in hair, beauty, aesthetics, barbering, makeup artistry, brands and education. For more information, visit www.scottishhairandbeautyawards.com. And that article was written by Morgan Carmichael. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 11th of October, news. Bank fined for treatment of customers. Report by Christy Dorsey. The UK's financial watchdog has hit high street lender TSB with a £10.9 million fine for failing to ensure that customers in arrears on mortgage, loan and credit card repayments were treated fairly. The Financial Conduct Authority said the bank, which is registered in Scotland and owned by Spanish giant Sabadell, lacked suitable systems and controls that created a real risk that repayment plans were not realistic. This increased the uncertainty and stress for customers, particularly the vulnerable. Between June 2014 and March 2020, the FCA said TSB staff were not sufficiently trained to understand customers' financial circumstances. In addition, incentive schemes could have encouraged them to prioritise the number of payment plans agreed rather than ensuring they were affordable. The extent of the failings was identified by an independent review ordered by the Financial Conduct Authority in July 2020. Although TSB was aware of potential problems with its collections and recoveries as early as December 2016, the Financial Conduct Authority noted that the bank did not take effective action to fully redress him until the review in 2020. If you get into difficulty, you hope for, and we expect, fair treatment so a stressful situation isn't made worse, said Therese Chambers, Joint Executive Director of Enforcement and Market Oversight at the FCA. TSB's woeful systems and controls exposed its customers to a risk of harm and meant it missed opportunity after opportunity to do the right thing. While it did take action, it took us instigating a review before it acted effectively to address all the issues. TSB has since paid £99.9 million in redress to 232,000 customers affected. It has also implemented a programme to address the issues at a cost of £105 million. The FCA noted that the fine could have come in at more than £15.5 million, but by agreeing to resolve matters, TSB qualified for a 30% discount. And that report was by Christy Dorsey. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 11th of October, from the news section. Inspirational schoolgirl is guest of honour at event. Report by Aidan MacDonald. An inspirational schoolgirl who is among the first in Scotland to take part in a new clinical trial has been chosen to open a superstore dedicated to saving lives. Fern Stewart, who is from Blantyre in South Lanarkshire, was guest of honour at the launch of Cancer Research UK's new superstore at Crown Street Retail Park in Glasgow. The 5-year-old, who is in remission from leukaemia, joined scientist Professor Victoria Cowling to cut the ribbon at the ceremony on Wednesday. Fern is on the UK arm of the Altogether One clinical trial, an international study funded by Cancer Research UK, involving patients from countries across Europe. It investigates how to treat acute lymphoblastic leukemia more effectively. The overall aim is to give each child or young adult the right amount of treatment to cure the leukemia and stop it coming back, while keeping the side effects as low as possible. Fern's dad, Gary, opened up on the struggles the family went through when their daughter was first diagnosed. He said, "Fern was only 4 at the time when she first became ill. We told her that she had a bug in her blood and that the doctors were going to make her better. Our son Joseph was still a baby then, so Paula, Fern's mum, and I had to take turns at sleeping at her bedside in hospital while the other parent looked after Joseph. Fern had beautiful long hair when she was diagnosed, and we had to explain to her that the chemotherapy treatment she needed meant she would lose her hair. We thought she would be very upset, but actually she adapted well. When she felt well enough, Fern was the first in the playroom in the hospital, and we decided early on that if she was fine then we had to be too. There were a few wobbles of confidence, but Fern took on everything that was thrown at her and mostly with a smile. Fern is scheduled to complete her chemotherapy in June, and since her diagnosis, she has started primary school and swimming lessons. Gary explained how his daughter has not let her condition hold her back. He continued, "We're so proud of Fern, of the resilience her daughter has shown, and of her determination during some of the most difficult times in hospital. She's a chatterbox, enjoying primary 1 at school, has joined the Rainbows and started swimming lessons. She's come so far in a year. Despite everything she has been through, she's been keen to help others. She was already thinking of selling homemade lemonade to raise money to help others, so she loves the thought of being able to donate some of her toys and books to the superstore to do some shopping herself too. And, as a family, we're glad to have the opportunity to give something back." Professor Cowling has been awarded a grant of £214,000 by Cancer Research UK to find a way to shoot the messenger that allows cells to grow in the wrong place in the bowel, which can lead to cancerous tumours. Her team is examining the role DNA and its biological messaging system RNA play in the development of cancer in the bowel. She added, "At the Cancer Research UK Scotland Institute, we're working hard to improve how we treat cancer. Every year we're making discoveries which help new therapies and improve existing treatments for cancer. We can only do our research because of the money raised in CR UK shops and through fundraising events and donations. All our research team are grateful to people across Scotland who give so generously. And that article was written by Aidan MacDonald. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 11th of October, from the news section. Man in knee op surgery trial. Report by Helen McCardle. A man is hoping to be saved from years of knee pain after taking part in an international transplant surgery trial. Andrew Pollock, a father of two from Wishaw, has become the first patient in Lanarkshire to receive a replacement meniscus, a pad of knee cartilage that acts as a shock absorber. The 29-year-old supermarket shift leader was at work around 8 years ago when he felt his knee pop as he turned around. Doctors diagnosed a tear in his meniscus, possibly caused by regularly playing football, and said he would have to undergo an operation to remove half of it. Andrew said his knee pain was particularly unbearable after he and fiancée, Nicole, had been running about after their two young children. He said, "Over the years my knee pain gradually got worse and I was warned it was likely I was going to have arthritis." I then heard from Mr. Bhattacharya about the new trial, which involves the options of physiotherapy or surgery. I was initially placed in the physio group, but it wasn't helping that much, so we then had another discussion about the surgery. He put me on the transplant list and said it was only about 2 weeks later that the surgery was booked in, and I was ready to go, which was great news. The operation, known as a meniscal allograft transplant, was completed 5 months ago at University Hospital Hairmyres in East Kilbride. He said, "I wasn't allowed to bear any weight on it, and I was in a knee brace for about 3 months. I'm definitely noticing a big improvement now, and I'm gradually doing more movements and activities." NHS Lanarkshire is among the sites in the UK, Belgium, Australia and Canada which is recruiting payments as part of the Meteor 2 trial, coordinated by Warwick University. Meteor 2 stands for Meniscal Transplant Surgery, or Optimised Rehabilitation. Until now, younger patients with severely torn meniscus had limited options to get back to full health. Consultant specialist knee surgeon Rahul Bhattacharya, who carried out the procedure with colleagues Oliver Bailey from NHS Lanarkshire, Simon Spencer from NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde, and scrub nurse Yvonne Jones, said it had been a success story for the team. He said, "If the meniscus is not present, the amount of load that goes to the knee is significantly increased. That means the patient's risk of developing arthritis in the future is higher. Patients like Andrew are too young to have a replacement knee, so they have to live with that pain until they're older. The replacement meniscus procedure involves a transplant from a deceased person, and will hopefully be able to show that it delays progression of arthritis in the knee. The trial will do a 2-year follow-up of the transplant in physio patients to assess the clinical effectiveness of the operation compared to personalised knee therapy." The symptoms Andrew had prior to surgery, mainly pain in the outside of his knee, are almost completely settled now. His swelling has gone, he's got full range of movement back, and his wounds are all well healed. Andrew is happy with the progress he's made following this surgery. As he continues with his rehab, the goal is to get him back to doing all his normal activities. This is a real success story for us. And that report was by Helen McCardle. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 11th of October, from the news section. Man jailed for 6 years after raping woman. Report by Grant McCabe. A sex attacker who was caught on a mobile phone raping a woman has been jailed for 6 years. Dane Thompson struck within days of meeting the victim, having initially been in touch with her online. The 35-year-old was yesterday sentenced at the High Court in Glasgow. Thompson, who has convictions dating back to when he was 14, was earlier found guilty of raping the woman at his house in the city Scotstoun in February last year. He claimed to have been the victim of lies made against him. The trial heard how the traumatised woman bravely tried to fight off Thompson during the attack and scratched him. Jurors were told how her phone was under a pillow during the incident. A call ended up being made to one of the woman's friends. In his closing speech, prosecutor Mark Mohammed KC stated, She heard it happening. There had been a missed call and the friend phoned back. She was connected and heard the victim say, "Get off me." Mr. Mohammed said this backed up the woman's account that she had been sexually assaulted. As well as the rape, Thompson was also convicted of engaging in abusive behaviour towards the victim. His lawyer, Duncan McPhee, said, "He gave evidence at trial, denied the allegations, and he maintains that position." Sentencing, Lord Colback said that Thompson showed no insight into the impact of his actions. The judge stated, "You met your victim online, communicated with her for 2 months, and she came to Glasgow. Within 7 days of arriving, you had been arrested and remanded in custody in relation to offences committed against her. You engaged in a course of behaviour that was abusive. More significantly, you raped her despite her protests." Thompson was put on the sex offenders list indefinitely. He has also been banned from contacting the woman. And that report was written by Grant McCabe. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 11th of October, from the news section, man revealed details of 2 cops' private lives on TikTok. Report by Ava White. A man uploaded videos and images of 2 police officers to TikTok, which were viewed more than 2 million times, revealing details of their personal lives. Robert Taylor, 24 of Royston, was sentenced at Glasgow Sheriff Court after admitting to capturing video footage of a male and female cop in direct threat to their safety. It was stated that Taylor posted a video to his TikTok account, Bad Boy Bob, which had around 73,000 followers, on January the 12th, 2022, showing the 2 officers driving past his home in an unmarked police car. In the video, he stated, "It's you wee junkie man, you wee junkie cow, F, asterisk, 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 G, rats." The post was captioned, "Wee tart stuck in my house, can she not take the hint I don't love her?" Taylor also uploaded a video on May 25th, 2022, showing the same officers walking on Royston Square dealing with another matter. On July 29th, 2022, the male officer was off duty and travelling to a flight to Mallorca with his family. At 12:50 p.m, police at the Dalmarnock office were made aware of a photo posted to Taylor's TikTok account showing the officer on the flight. It was captioned, "Poor guy can't even go on his holidays without being recognised now. Enjoy Mallorca," alongside laughing face emojis. It was believed an unknown person on the flight recognised the officer from Taylor's TikTok account, took the photo and sent it to him. Taylor then posted a montage photos of the female officer off duty playing football for a named team on September 22nd, 2022, captioned, "Currently in tears," alongside laughing face emojis. He commented, "That undercover copper that cannot stand me," and another user replied asking, "Is her name ... to which Taylor replied, "Yeah." As of September the 30th, 2022, the videos of the 2 officers had been viewed over 2 million times, attracting nearly 1,200 comments. On the same date, police attended Taylor's home and executed a search warrant. His laptop and phone were seized. He was later interviewed, cautioned and charged. Taylor's lawyer told the court that her client had not truly appreciated the serious nature of the offences. She said, "It is a common feature of social media that people often record interactions with police officers. What causes the difficulty for him is he reached beyond his own direct interaction and into the officers' personal lives. At the time, he perceived himself as somewhat targeted by police, not necessarily those officers concerned, but by police in general. This offence stems from immaturity and not the intention to invoke harm to these officers." Sheriff Anna Reid placed Taylor in a community payback order with 2 years social work supervision, 270 hours of unpaid work, and tagged him for 164 days, keeping him indoors from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Non-harassment orders were also granted for both officers for a period of 2 years. And that report was by Ava White and it was read by me, Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 11th of October, from the news section, Roofer survived fall from cherry picker after crash. Report by Connor Gordon. A roofer survived after falling 15 feet from a cherry picker, which was crashed into by a double-decker bus. Eden Brown, then 27, landed on a car roof before he hit the pavement in Glasgow's Castlemilk on February the 4th, 2022. Mr Brown was not wearing a safety harness when a number 75 first bus struck the MEWP cherry picker. Road barriers which should have surrounded the cherry picker were also not in place. Mr Brown suffered a string of life-changing injuries, including extensive fractures to his pelvis and right hip. He also sustained a collapsed left lung and a fractured right wrist, which left him in a cast. The victim has also not worked since the day of the incident and suffers from PTSD. McTaggart Construction Limited pleaded guilty yesterday at Glasgow Sheriff Court to failing to plan, manage and monitor the construction phase and coordinate matters relating to the health and safety during the construction phase. The award-winning Ayrshire-based firm, which had a year-end profit in 2023 of £5.2 million, hired the company Mr Brown worked for to do cladding repair work to flats. The court heard that on the day of the incident, a manager at McTaggart spoke to a cherry picker operator, Liam Chalmers, about putting barriers nearby. However, this was not done. Mr Brown and Mr Chalmers went up onto the basket to do their work, while they were not wearing body harnesses or safety lanyards. Prosecutor Saud Al-Hassan said, "The basket they were working in is estimated to have been 15 feet above the ground. Before 12 p.m, the near side of a double-decker 75 first bus struck the knuckle part of the MEWP that was protruding over the near side lane of the road. The force of the collision lifted the cherry picker on its two rear wheels momentarily and caused the boom to strike the nearby lamppost. Mr Brown was thrown from the basket and fell onto the roof of a parked car and then fell to the pavement. Mr Chalmers, meantime, was also thrown by the impact of the collision but remained in the basket. Mr Brown, who was stated to have fallen, was taken to hospital for treatment where he remained for 2 weeks. Mr Al-Hassan added, he sustained multiple extensive fractures to the pelvis and right hip, a collapsed left lung and a fractured left wrist. He was given surgical plates and screws as well as a cast for his left arm. It was stated that he walks with a limp on his left side and suffers pain when climbing stairs. Mr Brown was also diagnosed with PTSD. Mr Al-Hassan said, he has not worked since the incident and is not hopeful of returning to the same field due to the physical nature of it. He is now physically unable to play golf and football, which he had previously enjoyed before the incident. An investigation carried out concluded that McTaggart Construction didn't follow their own procedures in terms of safety measures associated with controlling the cherry picker. Since the incident, the company conducted a string of changes, including a review of policy procedures and documents, as well as reforming all documents. A formal procedure related to the use of the cherry picker has also taken place. Barry Smith, QC, defending, told the court, those associated with McTaggart Construction expressed regret that this was a terrible incident, in particular that it caused serious injuries to Mr Brown. Full PPE should have been worn. The operator embarked with Mr Brown when he ought to have known that it was fundamental for operating such equipment. The court will note that McTaggart's had in place full safety measures which the investigation stated, had they been followed, the incident would not have occurred. Sheriff Ian Fleming deferred sentence until later this month to consider submissions. He said, I express the court's sympathy to Mr Brown. Through no fault of yours, you suffered life-changing injuries. You should not go to your work and then be in hospital for serious injuries. Nothing I can do can bring Mr Brown to good health. What this court can and must do is select an appropriate sentence which will punish the offender, as well as express society's disapproval of this type of behaviour. It is vital that everyone learns from this tragic mistake. And that article was written by Connor Gordon. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 11th of October, news. Speeding driver went through red light. This article is an exclusive by Esther Tarnay. A Glasgow driver speeding through a red light crashed into another car, resulting in both men being taken to hospital. John McCormick, 57, appeared at Glasgow Sheriff Court this week after he pleaded guilty to dangerous driving, failing to adhere to a red light and colliding with a vehicle. The incident took place at 10:20am on October the 12th last year. Driver John Cunningham was driving on Stobhill Road and the light turned red, so he stopped. When the light turned green, he drove onto the junction with Balgrey Hill Road towards Fife Way. There he spotted a yellow Kia driving fast towards him. Mr. Cunningham could not get out of the way in time and the car crashed into him. His vehicle mounted a traffic island and struck nearby lights which became wedged under the cars. Airbags were deployed as significant damage was done to both vehicles, making them undrivable. Another driver, travelling opposite of the Kia, saw it driving at high speed and overtaking vehicles waiting at a red light. Police and ambulance crews were alerted and the driver of the Kia was identified as McCormick. Both drivers took a roadside breath test and the results were negative. Then the men were taken to Glasgow Royal Infirmary. McCormick of Keppock Hill confirmed he was the driver and he was arrested, cautioned and charged. The court heard that as a result of the crash, Mr. Cunningham had bruising on his abdomen and burns on his right forearm. Sheriff Patricia Price asked, "Was there a fire?" The Procurator Fiscal Depute replied, "No." The Sheriff and McCormick's solicitor both inquired if there were any details on how Mr. Cunningham suffered burns, but they could not be provided. Sentence was deferred for the Crown to clarify the injuries. And that report was an exclusive by Esther Tarnay.
Glasgow Times News on Monday the 14th of October. A bin lorry driver caught on his phone behind the wheel appeals his dismissal. An article written by Catherine Hunter. An HGV driver dismissed by Glasgow City Council after pictures emerged showing him on his phone while behind the wheel of a bin lorry is appealing the decision. The driver, who has been working with the local authority for more than 20 years, was photographed on his phone back in August. The case has left GMB cleaning members saying that they feel constantly scrutinised and under pressure from the City Council. Trade union convener Chris Mitchell said that drivers felt that they were being dismissed for the least wee thing. And one City HGV driver, who asked not to be named, said that the job has increased his stress levels. He said, "The minute you turn a key or take a vehicle out, you feel all eyes are on you and that you're in a goldfish bowl and the public are not helping, especially when they're looking for problems. The drivers are under tremendous pressure and they're scared to go into these vehicles. The way things are going, drivers would rather go road sweeping as they feel a lot safer. The minute you bump something, you're suspended and you fear losing your job." But a source close to the council insisted that being on your mobile phone while driving is not a slight misdemeanour. News of the appeal comes after Mr Mitchell called for more training to help HGV drivers navigate the narrow streets of the city and avoid making minor mistakes like hitting curbs or bumping parked cars. He said, "Our members are angry that one of their own was let go because of pictures that appeared in a newspaper. We want a new approach on how we deal with issues in the workplace. Are we going to constantly take the public side when they put whistleblowing complaints in? We need more protection for our drivers, and that will include more training put in place. We can't continue to go down the route where we're investigating, disciplining and dismissing the drivers constantly for the least wee thing. It's making people nervous to join the service because of things like this. GMB members have had enough. They feel constantly under pressure and scrutiny when it comes to health and safety, and these policies need to be looked at. We want our employers to stand by us." A Glasgow City Council spokesperson said, "We don't comment on individual personnel issues. The HGV qualified drivers we take on to drive our refuse vehicles will undergo a period of assessment at our Daldowie Training Centre to ensure that they can manoeuvre the vehicles appropriately. All drivers then undergo annual training to ensure that they maintain the statutory standard expected by the Certificate of Professional Competence for HGV licensed driving." An article written by Catherine Hunter. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 14th of October. Councillor challenges bus operator on cancelled Clydebank services. An article written by Emily Moore. A councillor has challenged a bus operator on its decision to cancel a route, which has resulted in an hour being added to some residents' journeys. Gordon Scanlon, councillor for Kilpatrick, has written to Strathclyde Partnership for Transport, or SPT, to ask them to reconsider their decision after cancelling the 6B and 118 services run by McCall's. We previously reported that the decision to cut the route almost 2 weeks ago and instead to redirect passengers to West Coast Motors' 15 and 17 services had concerned residents. The cancelled service used to run through Clydebank from Duntocha to Glasgow. West Coast Motors have recently expanded these services, adding 250 additional journeys on the 15 and 17 routes, but Gordon says these do not run early or late enough, which is in some cases not getting commuters to work on time. The Glasgow Times spoke last week with a nurse who now faces a 2-hour commute to Gartnavel Hospital. Sandra Jenkinson said, "They've just stopped this without any notice and haven't even changed the signs at the bus stops. I just feel totally stressed out about it. How am I going to get to work?" Gordon says she's not the only one. He said, "People have contacted my email and phoned me, and they've told me personally about how it's made it more difficult for them to get to work or to school. As a public transport user myself, I understand the vital importance of bus services in my ward, which is some distance from any railway station and is solely reliant on bus services for mass transport. I think it's caused quite a lot of disruption, especially for people working at a certain time. Whilst other services, such as the 17, operate through my ward, they start later in the morning and operate with different routes, which either complicate these residents' journeys or in some cases make it not possible to reach work on time. It doesn't really add up." An SPT spokesperson said, "SPT's framework for supporting local bus services supports subsidised bus services if there is funding available and if commercial services operating in the area are limited and not meeting the needs of the majority of users. Due to a significant increase in commercial services 15 and 17 in the area, supported services 118 and 6B cannot be maintained as they were originally contracted. We apologise to all passengers impacted by the cancellation of the 118 and 6B services and recognise the inconvenience caused to passengers who may experience a longer walk and an increase in journey time if some direct services are no longer available. We've received correspondence from Councillor Scanlon and have responded. We're happy to meet with him to discuss the situation further." An article written by Emily Moore. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 14th of October. Glasgow city centre construction works to last for 4 more years. A front page article written by Stuart Patterson. Construction works to make improvements on city centre streets will continue for the next 4 years. Sauchiehall Street is due to be completed within months, then work will start on several more key routes from early next year. After Sauchiehall Street, there will be an acceleration of work towards what the council is billing as the most significant change to city centre streetscapes since the 1970s pedestrianisation of Buchanan Street. Following major setbacks, including several fires, the collapse of major retail giants and the COVID pandemic, the council is aiming to create physical conditions to make the city centre attractive to people and investors. The overall Avenues and Avenues Plus programmes will see construction work taking place somewhere in the city centre until the end of 2028. A new timeline of the multi-million-pound project shows that between 2025 and 2027 there will be work ongoing on 18 different but connected projects. The final scheme to be carried out will be George Street, between George Square and High Street, between the end of 2027 and the end of 2028. Work on a major redevelopment of George Square will take place, starting in January 2025 and lasting until late 2027. The timeline shows Cambridge Street is first due for completion by the end of this year, then Holland Street and Pitt Street. Sauchiehall Street should be reopened by May next year. By then, work will be underway on Argyle Street, Duke Street and John Knox Street, Dobbie's Lane, South Portland Street, North Hanover Street and Kyle Street, Stockwell Street, George Square, George Street and St Vincent Place. Broomielaw and the High Street will see work start in early 2026. Most of the projects will be complete in 2026 or 2027, with George Street the last to be started mid-2027 and due for completion by the end of 2028. The work will transform the main city centre streets and is hoped to provide the platform for the city centre to flourish and benefit the people of Glasgow for decades to come. Last week, the Glasgow Times reported that Susan Aitken, the council leader, stating that many streets would be a building site, but it would be worth it for the benefits it will bring. Angus Miller, city convener for City Centre Recovery, said, "Our city centre has undoubtedly been impacted in recent years by multiple and overlapping challenges, from the legacy of the pandemic, fires and absentee property owners, to the shift to online retail and the cost of living and inflation crises. But it's increasingly a focal point for major investment, for population growth, and we have a responsibility to nurture that and create the cosmopolitan feel that Glasgow deserves. We know from our own past that when we make these changes, Glasgow has flourished. The pedestrianisation of Buchanan Street in the 1970s was the catalyst for it becoming one of the most successful streets on these islands. But it also signalled the transformation of Glasgow away from its post-industrial past. We're experiencing a similar period of transition just now, and the avenues can be the foundations for a city centre, which gives people more reasons to visit, to invest in Glasgow and to make the city centre their home." Business leaders said that the work will make Glasgow more attractive to investors. Stuart Patrick, Chief Executive of Glasgow Chamber of Commerce, said, "The next phase of the Avenues project is crucial for repositioning Glasgow to meet modern economic needs. While some disruption is inevitable, we are working with Get Glasgow Ready to keep businesses fully informed. We encourage all businesses to engage with the programme to minimise any impact and to ensure a smooth transition." A front page article written by Stuart Patterson. Glasgow Times on Monday the 14th of October. Lifestyle. Openreach brings its full fibre broadband roadshow to Glasgow. An article written by Sandhya Suresh. An Openreach digital roadshow is coming to Glasgow to promote ultra-fast full fibre broadband. The specially adapted vehicle will be at St Andrew's Crescent and Cedar Court on October the 17th. It's part of Openreach's October tour across the country, which aims to inform the public about the fastest technology delivering broadband to thousands of homes and businesses in Scotland. The company's ultra-fast full fibre network is already accessible to more than 195,000 Glasgow properties, including over 80,000 flats and apartments. However, only 27% of those eligible have upgraded. Stephen Chambers, Regional Engagement Manager at Openreach, said, "We're excited to bring our digital roadshow to Glasgow to talk about our ultra-fast full fibre broadband, how it works and what it offers. It's important to remember that upgrades don't happen automatically. People need to make contact and place orders through their broadband service provider to take advantage." The roadshow aims to highlight the benefits of full fibre, including fewer faults, more predictable speeds, and the capacity to meet growing data demands. This is particularly beneficial for streaming, video calls, banking, and customer engagements for businesses. The upgrade also means that multiple devices can connect at gigabit-capable speeds, reducing buffering or slowdown at busy times. Mr Chambers added, "Our engineering build continues across Glasgow and we're determined to deliver a great service to local residents, helping people to work from home easily and build connections and opportunities in their communities. This network's also future-proof, so it'll work for decades, no matter how much bandwidth we need. An article written by Sandhya Suresh. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 14th of October. A man attacked a bus passenger, causing others to flee the vehicle. An exclusive article written by Eva White. A man attacked a passenger on a moving bus, causing others to flee the vehicle when it stopped. Thomas Macaulay, 38, of Townhead, was sentenced at Glasgow Sheriff Court recently after pleading guilty to assaulting James Strain. The charge sheet goes on to state that the incident took place near 13 Dumbarton Road in the West End. The court heard that Mr Macaulay and an unknown man got on a number 2 first bus service travelling from Baillieston to Faifley at around 7:30 a.m. on October the 29th, 2022. Mr Macaulay sat in the first row of the bus, whilst the other man sat next to Mr Strain. The pair spoke before the man began to attack Mr Strain by punching him to the head. Mr Macaulay then threw punches at Mr Strain. The confrontation continued and the assault subsided before the unknown man and Mr Macaulay punched Mr Strain a further 2 or 3 times. Mr Strain appeared to stumble back and pushed Mr Macaulay off him in self-defence. The bus was then brought to a stop and other passengers got off to escape the disturbance. Mr Macaulay continued to speak to Mr Strain. At this time there was no one else on the bus, which was stationary. Police were contacted and Mr Strain, who was uninjured, confirmed that he had been punched in the face numerous times. Mr Macaulay's lawyer told the court that his client had been trying to make peace and became involved. The defence solicitor said this was a time where he was very much living under the influence of drink and drugs. He seems to have realised the difficulty this has created for him. He has no recollection of the assault. He was trying to make peace and became involved. He now stays with his long-term partner in Kilwinning in Ayrshire. He's not associating with the people from before. Sheriff Anna Reid placed Mr Macaulay on a community payback order with social work supervision for 12 months and a conduct requirement to engage with addiction services. Mr Macaulay was also tagged for 9 weeks, keeping him indoors from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. An exclusive article written by Eva White. Glasgow Times on Monday the 14th of October. Opinion. He was Scotland's greatest First Minister. A column written by Mike Daly. Scotland has lost a son and its greatest First Minister, Alex Salmond. His untimely death in North Macedonia on Saturday came as such a shock. I always got the impression that Alex never stopped working, and true enough, he was in North Macedonia to speak at the Forum for Cultural Diplomacy, organised by the country's former president, the United Nations and others, when he died. He'd called me from the conference on Friday night to organise a proper catch-up this week on the challenge to the winter fuel payment cut. A decision he took great issue with as an unforgivable attack on people of pensionable age, many of whom were on low and fixed incomes. It's a cause he championed, and it was a great pleasure for my colleagues and I to work with him. While Alex had a head for economics and strategy, social justice was at his heart. When he entered the House of Commons as the new MP for Bamfambuchen in 1987, he caused a stairhead rammy during the Chancellor's budget. He interrupted Nigel Lawson's speech by shouting, "Poll tax for the poor, tax cuts for the rich, nothing for the National Health Service, an obscenity." That was quickly followed by 400 votes to 23 to expel him from the chamber. Few politicians had his charisma, talent, intellect and sense of social justice. There's no question that Alex put the SNP on the world map. Stuart Campbell of Wings Over Scotland told me, "It's scarcely possible to comprehend the magnitude of Scotland's loss. Our familiarity with him shouldn't overshadow the fact that Alex was a figure of significance in the country's history on a par with Wallace and Bruce, and that we were fortunate to live in his time." While others have claimed credit for electoral success, such victories are accruals, to use accountancy parlance, earned by Alex Salmond from the 2014 independence referendum. It's important to remember that support for Scottish independence was at a modest 15% in 1979. It rose to the high 20s when Alex formed his first minority Scottish government in 2007. Yet, remarkably, Alex managed to increase support for Scottish independence to 45% by September 2014. Just a few weeks ago, I had the very good fortune to interview Alex with my colleague John McGovern for the Ordinary Elite podcast. Alex had formed the first majority Scottish government in May 2011 with an amazing 69 seats. He'd put the SNP on the electoral map and increased support for the independence cause. 10 years on from that historic referendum, we began by asking why did he resign as First Minister in 2014 when he'd achieved so much. Alex said, "Well, it's a question I'm increasingly asking myself, to be fair." He had done 20 years in total as SNP leader by 2014. I posed the question of how much better Scotland might have been over the last decade if Alex Salmond had still been at the wheel. He understood capital finance. He got schools, bridges and roads built. He valued education. He knew how to get things done. Scotland would have had much more than a couple of fully functioning ferries if we'd had a leader of Alex Salmond's intellect and calibre after 2014, in my opinion. Alex oft quoted Rabbie Burns. Some of the words from "A man's a man for all that" seem apposite. The man of independent mind, he looks and laughs at all that. But an honest man's aboon his might. The pith o' sense and pride o' worth, that sense of worth, or are the earth. For are that, and are that, it's coming yet, for are that. A column written by Mike Daly. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 14th of October. Residents invited to give views on cycle path plans. An article written by Sarah Hilly. Images of how key roads could look when the first of the city's 270 kilometres of cycle paths are laid down have been released for people to comment on. Concept visualisations can be seen for Maryhill Road, Royston Road, Pollokshaws Road and Langside Avenue, amongst others, as part of a consultation running until Sunday. The new cycle routes will run through streets in the inner north and south neighbourhoods. The City Network Phase 1 plan in the areas will form about 56 kilometres of active travel routes. The consultation survey is currently running until Sunday, October the 20th, asking residents for feedback on emerging design proposals for the inner north and south city network. Drop-in events were held in September and people can still visit local libraries to take a look at potential designs and visualisations. The council said the success of the city network is reliant on input from local people to help the team understand key issues in each neighbourhood, with this local knowledge informing the developing designs. It added the city network will comprise around 270 kilometres of routes across the city, providing accessible, safe, direct and comfortable journeys for Glasgow's citizens. The paths aim to enable everyone to travel by foot or by bike, including those aged over 80, as well as being usable all year and eliminating traffic danger as a reason not to cycle. An article written by Sarah Hilly.
From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday the 15th of October 2024, from the news section. Council ordered removal of beer garden canopy at Glasgow pub. And this article was written by Drew Sandlands. A pub in Strathbungo has launched an appeal after the council ordered the removal of a canopy over its beer garden. The Regent Bar on Pollokshaws Road put up the canopy to provide shelter to the external drinking area without planning permission. Council officials said it was an incongruous addition which harms the special architectural and historic character and appearance of the listed building. They added 2 previous applications to install a canopy in 2006 had been refused. Questions have also been asked about changes to the building's sandstone facade. But Rosemount Inns Limited, which owns the pub, has appealed to the Scottish Government over the decision. A representative for the firm said the 2006 applications had been made before Rosemount Inns bought the bar. They have argued work to the building was necessary due to decay of the existing cladding. The appeal states timber cladding was in poor condition, and upon removal of the cladding, the stonework was also noted to be in poor condition. An independent reporter has been appointed by the Scottish Government to rule on the case, with a decision expected in early December. In an enforcement letter to the owners, a council official said there had been a planning breach and the canopy should be removed. It added, "The external walls of a historic building are an important element in defining its character. Listed building consent is required for any works affecting the character of a listed building, and planning permission may be required in a conservation area." They asked for more information regarding the treatment of the sandstone facade when this work was carried out. Building consultants Brodia, acting on behalf of Rosemount Inns, told the council that the firm had purchased the property in 2008 and had no knowledge of a previous application for planning and listed building consent. In the letter sent to the council in August, it said the owners planned to submit a retrospective application for the canopy and argued there are numerous examples of properties within the Strathbungle Conservation Zone with canopies. They believe a precedence has been set within the area. The letter added the external works are being reviewed with a view to reinstating the elevations to their appearance prior to the recent works. The appeal, submitted in September, stated the elevation works were undertaken due to decay of the existing cladding to the perimeter. The existing timber cladding was overall in poor condition, and upon removal of the cladding, the stonework was also noted to be in poor condition. It added repairs were undertaken to the stonework, and the canopy was added only for aesthetic purposes to provide shelter to the external drinking area. This article was by Drew Sandlands. From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday, the 15th of October 2024. From the news section. Glasgow Council rejects Dogs Trust firework control zone bid. And this article was written by Sandhya Suresh. A dog welfare charity has expressed disappointment over the lack of a firework control zone around its Glasgow rehoming centre. Dogs Trust applied to Glasgow City Council in June requesting restrictions on private firework use in the area to protect dogs from the anxiety and distress caused by fireworks. The Trust said the rehoming centre in Broomhouse has been repeatedly targeted by antisocial behaviour, with fireworks deliberately aimed above the kennels. The application was rejected last month after a public consultation and consideration by a panel consisting of the Council, Police Scotland and the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service. Dogs Trust has appealed the decision, arguing the impact of unpredictable fireworks on animals is sufficient grounds for establishing a zone according to Scottish Government guidance. However, the Council has confirmed that there is not enough time to review and implement a zone by Bonfire Night 2024. Laura Foster, Associate Director of Rehoming at Dogs Trust, said, "Fireworks season is a really difficult time for dogs in our care, and with many of them traumatised by the noise from fireworks. Our Glasgow Rehoming Centre is particularly affected as it is located in a residential area where private displays are frequent and unpredictable. Sadly, our centre has also had problems with the antisocial use of fireworks, where people have deliberately set off fireworks next to the centre, purposefully aiming them to explode above the dogs' kennels. This sort of behaviour is completely unacceptable and causes our dogs a great deal of distress. We urge Glasgow City Council to review our appeal as soon as possible and hope that those reviewing our application will seek advice and guidance from animal welfare professionals to ensure that the impact of fireworks on our dogs is considered before making a final decision. A spokesperson for the council said applications for firework control zones were considered by the multi-agency panel. Decisions were based on data held by the council, Police Scotland and Scottish Fire and Rescue about complaints about antisocial behaviour involving fireworks in previous years. Where applications were rejected, applicants had a right of appeal. We would remind residents that they can feed into the ongoing consultation into the possible creation of a citywide firework control zone next year. We are working with our partners in the emergency services to address the community safety concerns that arise around Bonfire Night. Research by the charity's National Dog Survey indicates that fireworks affect up to half of the UK's pet dogs, with 45% of owners reporting that their dogs aren't always calm when fireworks are set off. From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday, the 15th of October 2024. From the news section. Pension news. HMRC deadline to boost state pension approaches. And this article was written by Joshua Sell. More than 10,000 people have boosted their state pensions by a combined £12.5 million in the last 6 months, HMRC has revealed. More than 10,000 payments worth £12.5 million have been made through the new digital service to boost people's state pensions since it launched in April 2024. People have until April the 5th, 2025 to make voluntary national insurance contributions and maximise their state pensions. HMRC and Department for Work and Pensions, DWP, are encouraging people to act now and use the Check Your State Pension Forecast tool on gov.uk to see if they can increase their retirement income. The service enables people to check if they have gaps in their national insurance NI record, calculate if making a payment would increase their state pension, and then make a payment if they wish to do so. After the 5th of April 2025 deadline, people will only be able to make voluntary contributions for the previous 6 tax years in line with normal time limits. Since its launch in April, 3.7 million people have used the online checking tool on gov.uk to view their state pension forecast. Emma Reynolds, Minister for Pensions, said, "We want pensioners of today and tomorrow to enjoy the dignity and support they deserve in retirement. That's why I urge everyone to check if they could benefit by filling gaps before the deadline passes. Using our online tool means only a few clicks could make a huge difference to your future." Customers can use the Check Your State Pension Forecast tool by logging into their online account or via the free and secure HMRC app. Those without an online HMRC account can register on gov.uk. Martin Lewis, the money-saving expert, has previously issued warnings to everyone aged between 45 and 70 about the impending deadline. Explaining the process previously on the Martin Lewis podcast, The Money Saving Expert, said, "We need to spread the word on this. On April the 6th, 2016, that was the day they introduced the new state pension. For those who hit pension age since then, you have been put on the new state pension. As part of that, transitional arrangements were put in place. Those transitional arrangements are set to end. This is all about your national insurance years. The amount that you get in your state pension is about the number of qualifying years that you have. You can acquire years by working, minimum wage, and you will get national insurance credits. Or if you're not working, there are other ways you can get NI credits, for example, if you are raising children or have a disability. Now, to get the full state pension when you retire on the new state pension, you will need 35 years-ish. Some of you, when you get to retirement, will be missing years. It might be you were on a low income or working abroad. Anybody listening right now, do this. If you're not yet at state retirement age, go to gov.uk and look up your state pension summary. That will tell you when you will get your pension, and it will give you a forecast of how much you are likely to get. And that article was by Joshua Sell. From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday, the 15th of October 2024. From the news section. Teen found with weapon at group incident in East Kilbride. And this article was written by Rebecca Newlands. A teen was allegedly found with a weapon after police were called to an incident involving a group. Cops were alerted to a report of a disturbance involving youths at Neville in East Kilbride on Saturday afternoon. They were made aware of the alleged incident at around 5 p.m. When officers attended, they arrested and charged a 15-year-old male in connection with having a weapon. A report is being sent to the children's panel. A Police Scotland spokesperson said, around 5 p.m. on Saturday, October the 12th, we received a report of a disturbance by youths at Neville, East Kilbride. Officers attended and a 15-year-old male was arrested and charged in connection with possession of a weapon. A report will be sent to the children's panel. And that article was by Rebecca Newlands. Recorded by me, Caroline.
This is from the Glasgow Times on the 16th of October 2024 from the news section, and the headline reads, 4-year-old hit by car in Glasgow fighting for her life. This article is by Rebecca Newlands. A 4-year-old girl is fighting for her life after being hit by a car in Glasgow. Emergency crews were called to Cumberland Street outside Blackfriars Primary School in the Gobbles at around 3 p.m. on Tuesday, October 15th. We reported that a child had been taken to the Royal Hospital for Children for treatment. Now cops have revealed that she is in critical condition. The car involved was a white MG HS car, and the 57-year-old male driver was not injured. Road policing officers are investigating the crash, and they are urging any witnesses to get in touch as soon as possible. Sergeant Chris Hoggins said, "Our thoughts are with everyone involved, and our inquiries are ongoing to establish the full circumstances of what happened. We are asking anyone with information, including dashcam footage or private CCTV, to get in touch if they can assist with our investigation. If you can help, please call Police Scotland on 101, quoting incident number 1964 of Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. This article was by Rebecca Newlands. This is from the Glasgow Times on the 16th of October 2024 from the news section, and the headline reads, Man, woman and 2 children from Glasgow died in crash. This article is by Rebecca Newlands. A man, woman and 2 children from Glasgow have died following a crash on the M6. Police say they were called to a collision between two cars on the northbound motorway past Tivay Services in Cumbria at around 4:05 p.m. on Tuesday, October 15th. The incident involved a Skoda and a Toyota. The male driver of the Toyota, a woman and two children, were pronounced dead at the scene. Cops revealed that they are from Glasgow. A third child in the Toyota was taken to the Royal Victoria Infirmary in Newcastle, where they are battling serious injuries. Meanwhile, the male driver of the Skoda from Cambridgeshire was also pronounced dead at the scene. Families of all those who were involved are being supported by specially trained officers. The M6 northbound fully reopened in the early hours of Wednesday morning. The force is urging anyone with information on this incident to get in touch. You can report it online at www.cumbria.police.uk/report-it, quoting incident number 146 of October 15th, 2024. You can also phone on 101, or you can contact Crime Stoppers anonymously on 0800 555 111. This article was by Rebecca Newlands. This is from the Glasgow Times on the 16th of October 2024 from the news section, and the headline reads, "Motorcycle gang member planted pipe bomb under rival's father's van." This article was by Connor Gordon. A tattooed motorcycle gang member planted a pipe bomb under a rival's father's van amid an ongoing shoot. Daniel Laponda, 43, targeted David Rollo Sr.'s work van outside his home in Lennoxtown, Eastern Bartonshire, on June 8, 2024. Mr. Rollo's son is a member of the Blue Angels Motorcycle Club, stated to be the oldest outlaw biker club in Europe. Groundworker Laponda is an ex-member of the Blue Angels, who subsequently formed his own Mad Dogs motorcycle club after he left. The High Court in Glasgow was told that the two rival clubs are engaged in a feud with each other. A hearing was told Mr. Rollo Sr. parked his BT Openreach Vauxhall Vivaro van near his home on June 7th, 2024. Late the following night, an off-duty firefighter was told of a vehicle which was ablaze on Benview Road. Prosecutor Lorraine Glancy, KC, said he attended to assess the situation and saw the vehicle on fire. He observed a device made up from bottles, wires, and an apparent electrical component with a battery compartment. Fire crews attended and found the device lying underneath the front of the van. It was stated that this consisted of two plastic bottles and copper pipe taped together, attached to an RF receiver with an antenna. A major incident was later declared, which resulted in an emergency evacuation procedure, as well as a 100-metre cordon until the device was made safe. Due to the nature and severity of the incident, teams from Police Scotland, Scottish Fire and Rescue, the Scottish Ambulance Service, and a Royal Navy Explosive Ordnance Disposal Unit attended. Miss Glancy said, "At 5:45 a.m, confirmation was received that the device was a viable pipe bomb which had been detonated. There were traces of accelerant located at the front offside wheel and an area underneath the engine." Police inquiries led officers to the Mad Dogs Motorcycle Club Facebook account, which featured Laponda and another man with a Range Rover. The same Range Rover was caught on video doorbell footage as the vehicle driven by the perpetrators. The pair even posted themselves on Facebook on the day of the attack with the caption, "Hooked up with this reprobate today. Interesting stuff." Laponda and the other man purchased duct tape and a bottle of water, which were identical to those used in the making of the bomb. Laponda's DNA and fingerprints were also recovered from the bottles and tape. A forensic investigation on the device found that it comprised of petrol and ball bearings with a remote activation attached to it. Police traced Laponda on July 3rd, and he informed them that there was a shotgun in his barge where he resides in Kirkintilloch, Eastern Bartonshire. The weapon was recovered and found to be a loaded side-by-side double-barrel break-action shotgun designed to discharge 12-bore shotgun cartridges. The gun had been shortened by removing a section of the barrels and stock. Other items recovered included wires and connectors similar to items recovered from the bomb incident. When quizzed by officers, LaPonda stated, "I'm not a Blue Angel anymore, I retired a year ago." LaPonda was asked about the bomb and replied, "Link the dots, we've been getting attacked all the time." What is a remote detonator? It goes off with a remote, perhaps it was shot across the bow. A garage linked to the Mad Dogs Motorcycle Club was raided and 2 remote firing systems, similar to the one used in the bomb attack, were recovered. LaPonda pleaded guilty to willful fire-raising and possession of the shotgun without the authority of the Secretary of State or Scottish ministers. John Scullion, KC, defending, told the court, "Motorcycles belonging to friends of Mr LaPonda were set on fire. A group of motorcyclists attended Mr LaPonda's home address and threatened him with violence. Events described today were in response, which explains what he said when interviewed by the police following his arrest. The vehicle was chosen due to its distance from properties, and the device allowed Mr LaPonda to be present to be sure that there was no one in the vicinity when it ignited." It was revealed that LaPonda's previous convictions are all for road traffic matters, which included a drink driving matter in 2022, where he was fined £2,000 and disqualified for 20 months. Sentence was deferred pending background reports by Judge Lord Arthurson until next month, and Dad of one LaPonda was remanded in custody meantime. The judge said, "These are very grave offences involving serious weapons, and at the end of this process you will receive a significant custodial sentence." This article was by Connor Gordon. This is from the Glasgow Times on the 16th of October 2024 from the news section, and the headline reads, "MSP calls for action on Dyer Drumchapel Health Centre in Glasgow." This article is by Emily Moore. An MSP is calling for action on the dire state of Drumchapel Health Centre, which he says has reached a crisis point. Dr Sandesh Gulhane, regional MSP for Glasgow, says the centre, located on Kinfauns Drive, houses 4 GP practices and is struggling to serve a rapidly growing patient population in completely unacceptable conditions. At First Minister questions in Holyrood last week, Gulhane asked John Swinney if he would visit the centre and see how badly the people of Drumchapel are being let down. The Scottish Conservative and Unionist MSP has highlighted issues such as lack of space, deteriorating building conditions, and insufficient resources to meet the community's needs. Speaking in Parliament, he said, "The population is rapidly increasing. Many patients have complex and multifaceted health issues, and many do not speak English. The centre is unfit for purpose, which result in longer waits and widening inequalities. The staff I met are desperate for help, as the centre has been consistently overlooked for an upgrade. Will the First Minister agree to accompany me on a visit to the centre to see how badly the people of Drumchapel are being let down?" John Swinney replied, "I recognise the importance of access to GP services. The Cabinet Secretary for Health and Social Care will be engaging on questions about improvements that can be delivered to the capital estate. I am sure that he will be happy to engage with Dr Gulhane on that question and ensure that the issues that he has put to me can be factored into the government's capital planning." Gulhane, who is also a practising NHS GP, says the health centre, which currently serves roughly 17,000 patients, is facing an additional 100 new patients joining each month. Additionally, he added that the centre is top of the list for replacement accommodation, while areas like Woodside, Maryhill and Parkhead have all benefited from the new build health centres in recent years. An NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde spokesperson said, "We have a rolling programme of maintenance and replacement for all buildings in its estate. While we continue to provide regular repair and maintenance at our sites, including Drumchapel Health Centre, the financial challenges that are facing all health boards in Scotland have had an effect on the timing and extent of our capital programmes. Working with local authorities and health and social care partnerships, we will continue to do all we can to provide healthcare facilities that are suitable for the changing needs of communities." This article is by Emily Moore. This is from the Glasgow Times on the 16th of October 2024 from the news section, and the headline reads, "New images show demolition of historic Glasgow venue." This article was by Rebecca Newlands. New images show progress on the demolition of a historic Glasgow music venue. The iconic O2 ABC building on Sauchiehall Street is currently in the process of being torn down, with plans to build student accommodation in its place. Photos taken by our Glasgow Times camera club this week show most of the roof is now gone, and the famous front facade with blue panels and the O2 ABC sign is no more. Developers have previously said it was not feasible to retain the facade due to its condition, but politicians and campaigners have since been trying to persuade the owners to keep some of the original features. The demolition of such an establishment will feel like a loss to many of us who have fond memories of the building. From a Victorian picture house to one of the city centre's busiest nightlife spots, the O2 ABC entertained the people of Glasgow for well over a century. First opening in 1875 as the Diorama Theatre, the venue was later transformed into an indoor skating rink and then Hengler's Circus. In the 20th century, it was used as a dance hall, and the name ABC came along in 1929, when it was converted into a cinema seating 2,359 people, while still maintaining its original features from over the last 50 years. The cinema closed in 1999, and the ABC reopened in 2005, when regular music mogul David McBride saw an opportunity for a building of that size and historic value to transform it into a space for music. After a multi-million-pound investment, the Academy Music Group took over as the majority stakeholder in 2009, thus rebranding it the O2 ABC. It became a popular club night in the 2010s, as students would flock to Jelly Baby Thursdays, Propaganda Fridays and Love Music Saturdays. Sadly, a fire at the nearby Glasgow School of Art in June 2018 forced the venue out of use. This article was by Rebecca Newlands.
That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Q and Review and to tell your friends about our service.